Maybe one thought that every young man has thought of at least once. How do I date a model? For most of us, this is a passing thought, a daydream, kind of like a what if episode on Disney Plus. Nice to think about, but never gonna happen. But what if you actually had the opportunity to do so? What if there was a way, in one moment, to date models? Would you capture it or just let it slip? Now, before I start rapping into an Eminem song, let's talk about the economics of female models and how to date them. Big disclaimer, what I'm about to share with you is not PC. It's based on my personal experience modeling for 3 years and being in the industry. As an older guy now, I can tell you definitively that going after someone just for their looks does not lead to long-term happiness. But for those of you that are on your hero's journey, if this is something you want to pursue, I understand. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the best way that I know how to date models. If you keep watching until the end, I have a very important life lesson for you. And I promise there's a happy ending. So keep watching and subscribe if you're enjoying this right now. A 2016 BBC article cites that an average annual income for models is around 20,000 to 30,000 pounds. This means that most models struggle living off modeling income alone. In fact, only about 10 to 20% of models actually make a full-time living only from modeling. How does this affect you? In most jobs, if you're a lawyer or an accountant, you can be the worst accountant or the worst lawyer or the worst doctor. You can be in the bottom 20th percentile. And chances are, you'll still make a good living. But this is an industry where 80% of the people are not making livable wage. And the majority of the money goes to the top 20%. That means that in modeling, you have to really depend on work ethic, luck, and your look to make it to the top. So most models have to really work multiple jobs while they're modeling, while their career is taking off to make ends meet, right? You have very rare exceptions like Cindy Crawford's daughter, who's kind of built into the legacy system. But besides those unique cases, most unknown models go through a long period where they're working multiple jobs until their modeling career takes off. So all the C-list models, they all knew each other and they had little friend groups. And some of them will be friends with the B-list models. Now, the C-list models are the ones that are like part-time waitresses, part-time hostesses. They do promo work, but they also have some fashion editorials on the side. And occasionally they get a big job. The B-list models are halfway there. They get a couple of big jobs throughout the year that give high paychecks. It only happens maybe 5-6 times a year. So they're almost at the edge where they could do this full time, but they do struggle financially. They usually live with someone or they have multiple jobs. And the B-list and C-list models, because they have multiple jobs, often see each other in castings, and they tend to be friends because they go to the same castings at the same level. And then you have the full-time girls. These are the girls that have high trajectories, either because they have connections already, are celebrities, or they're extremely beautiful in a way that has very low competition. They have a look that no other model has. And these are like high trajectory girls, okay? They're very rare. And then you have the A-list models. The models have already made it. They're building their mother agencies a ton of money. They probably have their own Instagram that's blowing up. They've already established the proof of work. And so they get hired on a regular basis and they get paid a lot of money to do so. Now, the A-list models make more than the average lawyer and accountant. So the pyramid here is at the top. There's a lot of money. Now, this is important to note because you're going to understand the social circles of the A-list to C-list models and how you can get to know them. Now, you've all seen this chart with online dating and even modern dating, I should say. Most girls end up matching with the top 20% of guys. However, in modeling social circles, we're kind of going back to like the 1950s again, where everyone's good looking already. So it's like everyone's entered this gatekeeper and it's like everyone here is already pre-screened, right? So the dating is a lot more fluid and it happens quite a lot. Now, after a while, most female models start hating male models. Why? Because most male models, especially the young ones, are very cocky. Imagine this, right? You're the hottest guy there, you have no competition, and every girl wants to sleep with you. After a while, you start feeling really entitled. And I know a lot of female models who swear off male models. You're just like, I can't date them, they're all a-holes. But when they're younger, in the first 1 or 2 years, they don't know better, and they usually end up dating some of the male models, okay? Usually after a while, they realize how bad they are, and then it's this whole cycle that happens over and over again. If you really want to see how this works, check out the show 8th and Ocean. It used to be a reality show of a couple of models on Ocean Drive in Miami, and you can see this guy Teddy, who's super good looking, and the girls all like him because he's hot. hot, and then they realize like, oh, he's dating around a lot. And you see the whole progression of what happens in the industry from that show. If you're a minority model like me,
stop the cap.
Okay, what happens is like the racism is still intact, except that it's at a higher level. So like, whereas in a regular life, some like half the girls won't date me because I'm Asian, let's say if I'm in a small town, then in modeling social circles, these two girls will date me, these two girls will date me, these girls won't because I'm Asian, and then one girl will hear. So my ratios are a little bit better. If you're Black, Asian, or sometimes Latino, like you definitely stand out in when you're doing a runway, no one else looks like you. So you do have an advantage. So the people that like you really like you, and the people that don't like you really don't like you. So the polarization of minority models is quite extreme. And when I'm the only Asian model there, especially with like the whole K-pop movement, there are girls that will chase me down. So it was a good time for sure, but definitely like sometimes I felt like a piece of meat. I have other qualities too. It feels good in the beginning when you're new, but later on you realize people only like me for my looks. And that feeling, I know it's pretty privileged, and I know that it sounds good when you don't have it, but once you experience it, you realize that it is kind of temperamental, because you're always wondering like, if I lose my looks, will these people still be friends with me? Will people still like me? And that's a weird place to live in your head.
You had the American dream happen to me. I got the great job. I was good at it. I bought a house. The house had a pool. I had the American dream, and I really, really liked it. Loved it for about 6 months. And then I walked in my house and went, oh man, this is not fixing this problem that I have. How is that possible? Jim Carrey did a really good quote a few years ago, and he said, I want everybody to get all their dreams come true, everybody, so that they could know that it's not the answer. Because I thought it would fix everything, and it didn't. I still wanted to drink every day.
That's why a lot of mental health issues do come up in this industry when you live there for too long. Once upon a time, when I had my own company and a couple of assistants, we did an experiment where we analyzed all the top models. And the question we're trying to answer is, who do models date? And what does it take for a guy to date models consistently? And I came up with a spreadsheet. I won't show you all of it, but I'll show you some of it here, because this is like kind of sensitive info. These are like the A-list models of our cities. And we tracked down like who they dated and what type of success the guy has. We also looked at like all the gender ratios of all the events that we're going to in LA. I can't show you the rest of these sheets, but basically I located like all the top places to go, the ratios, where to run the best game, etc., etc. All of this is in my course. Feel free to check it out. The links are below. But here's the interesting part. When we analyzed the data, we even had a heat map of like all the top modeling agencies. We even wrote like a script where when a girl tags an Instagram location, we would just pinpoint like all the pins, and we find out all the hotspots for that city. Actually, that'd be a pretty good app to build if anyone wants to build that. What you'll find is of the 190 top models, right? These are like the top supermodels of the world. The average male partner age is 40. Now you have the Prince Albert of Monaco, Bruce Willis, Nick Jonas. I mean, these are like top 0.1%, right? But what's interesting, of the 190, 11 of them ended up married or dating photographers. A lot of unknown businessmen, also 57 of them, up to 30%, there were no records of them. Like, they were just regular guys. That's tier 1. In tier 2 and 3, where I was at, I saw the girls date all sorts of guys they liked. Some were good looking, some were not. It was not consistent at all. One of the girls I used to work with who ended up on billboards, she married a guy who, skates for a living. Not even a great skater, just like part-time. And they just fell in love. So it's not guaranteed that you have to be a famous person or a businessman. But I would say overall, you do have to have your life together to be consistently dating models. Now, a lot of guys' preferences have changed since the 90s supermodel era. A lot of my clients these days, they like girls that are curvy. They even like shorter girls. It's not just a tall, slender look that's defining beautiful anymore. To date models consistently, you also have to be in a modeling city. There are different tiers, right? A-tier modeling cities, New York, LA, Paris, London. These are top cities where models get hired a lot, they go to castings, and the industry is thriving. Then you have B-list cities like Miami. And then you have C-list cities kind of like Scottsdale and Chicago, and even there's some agencies in San Francisco, okay? okay? But New York City is probably the most likely place that you're gonna be consistently meeting models and having an opportunity to actually talk to them. So at this point, you're like, man, this is so much work. I don't wanna do all this work. I just wanna date a cute girl. So be it. And to be honest with you, that was my conclusion as well. However, I did have the opportunity to live in one of these top cities. And if you're in a top city, let's say, and you wanted to date a model, how would you do it? You gotta think about like all of these girls place so much emphasis on what they eat, how they look. So they're not gonna compromise for a guy who's out of shape, especially when they're working. They're not gonna compromise on a guy who has really bad style because they're around like beautiful, elite, colorful style every day. So they need a guy to have basic hygiene, basic style. And I talk a lot about this like concept of the elite style in my course Seduce with Style. Check it out at highintegrityskills/style 4. So you don't need to be super buff or super cut. You don't even need to be a model, but you need to have your body in check. You need to be somewhat healthy and you need to have your style down. You can't be like unstylish and be dating model girls consistently. The second hack I noticed was that a lot of them would always date photographers because the photographer is always working with a model to try to get really good pictures. Sometimes they'll date the designer or the business owner, but that's a little bit more too much of a power dynamic. The photographer and the model are kind of like two artists working together to create this vision of a picture. And so I had a friend who was a DJ who turned photographer and he just started, dating models because he took photographs of them all the time. And there were some pretty funny stories from that period when I knew that guy. And then step 3 is there's a ton of tier B and tier C girls that are just working, hustling, regular jobs, and they just want some downtime. And when we were in LA, we would invite them to board game nights and have like pizza, wine, cheese, just a really chill environment where they didn't feel judged. And we built up a big social circle just by offering a place where they didn't feel like they had to put on a front. Now, the industry of the model is changing, right? OnlyFans growth is super high, exponential, right? Money potential really high if you're in the top 20%, but I hear people make money from it anyway by creating niches like feet and other stuff. And the freedom is pretty much you have internet access and a webcam. Fashion models, the industry is not growing that fast. The traditional fashion model, the industry still exists, but it's not what it used to be. The era of the supermodels is over. Potential, if you're in the top, still a lot of potential to grow. Freedom, not so much. You have to go to agencies, you gotta go to castings, you have to work with people in person. There's not a lot of location and time freedom. You're kind of stuck with being a freelancer and going to all these events. And then there's the rise of the Instagram influencer model who, can start her own OnlyFans, sure, but can also do sponsorships. The growth is high, the potential is high, and there's a lot of freedom like the OnlyFans girl, except they're not going, full naked. There are some unconventional hacks that are happening. I know friends who are geomaxing. They're basically going to Eastern Europe where the majority of the population has model proportions. Estonia is the one country that has the highest per capita model. That means that they have the most models per 100 citizens, okay? I think it's like 14 out of 100 girls in Estonia model or have model proportions. I know guys who go to specific places in Russia and Vietnam where the majority of women have those proportions and look like that. And they have less expectations than the girls in first world countries. Another hack is day game. A lot of times during the day, I meet beautiful women who look like models, who are very cute, who are just working a regular job, okay? And I find them to be extremely easy to talk to most of the time. Online dating, you're not gonna find model girls in online dating. Most of these girls, they can't do online dating because they just get overwhelmed. It's kind of like they're getting spammed. And sometimes they're on apps like Raya, but you gotta figure out a way to get in. The last model girl I dated, she only modeled part-time because she actually is a good girl. She has a regular job, but she told me that she never does online dating because she just has too many options in her regular life looking how she looks. Step 6, if you want to date models, this is where we get a little deep, guys. I promise it's good. So keep watching, sub and like if you're enjoying. Is that for me, I got to taste the rainbow. I wanted to taste the rainbow. I worked really hard and finally I got to taste the rainbow. And then I realized after tasting the rainbow that it's okay, but it's not as great as I thought it was. The one thing I learned from Tony Robbins is this: the quality of your life is the quality of your emotions. So I had the hot model girl. The validation I got from that was, at first, to me, it felt insane. Literally every time this girl walks into a room, like if there's 20 people in the room, 10 people will turn their heads. And it includes guys and girls. Whenever we're even just grocery shopping, people would kind of steal a peek. So there are a lot of validation and emotions of happiness there. Whenever we're not out, you gotta remember there's all sorts of problems, right? Just like everyone else, models have problems too. And not all models, but majority of people in this industry, they have a problem with insecurity. They have problems with, childhood trauma. There's something that drives a girl or guy to go into acting or modeling because they want the attention. And the attention sometimes is a substitute for the lack of attention that they didn't get from their parents. Not always, but this tends to be a pattern that I've seen in this industry. Started dating girls that looked really cute or like could be models, but they had regular jobs. And then I found much more fulfillment. I found that I didn't have to stress all the time. They weren't insecure. I felt loved and safe. And we were still exciting. We did stuff together, but I feel fulfilled like most of the time, rather than just half the time, the validation from externally other people. And then I went home to Taiwan. I saw my parents. My dad is 72. My mom is 70. And I see them together and they're old. And my dad would tell me, your wife is the most important asset in your life. Pick carefully. And my mom's like, every girl you meet is gonna get old. You're gonna get old. And that's when like finally my evolution was complete.
Well, this is it. I hope you're not disappointed.
It's like, okay, I chased this thing for so long because I was actually lacking love and significance from internally. So think about the emotions you want to feel most of the time and balance that with your desire to go for the top. Now look, some young guy's gonna be watching this. Like the 25-year-old me is gonna be like, bro, shut the F up. Like, I just want you to tell me how you did it. And give me the blueprint. Give it to me. Give it to me! I want to taste the rainbow. All right, man. I hear you, young blood. I get it, man. So look, fly as far as you can, fly as high as you can, see the world. Just be careful. Don't have your wings melted off. Don't catch anything, but go for what you want, okay? So let's recap. Most models, 80% of them don't make a livable wage. The majority of the B-list models are friends with C-list models, and some of them know the A-list models. So if you were to build a social circle or meet someone, sometimes in the beginning, it's better to just be friends and then get to know everyone as they all know each other. And what's funny is if some of the C-list models don't like you and then you end up dating a B-list model, all the C-list models now want to date you. It's a real hierarchy that's, intrinsic to this type of social situation. If you can become a model, two of my clients actually ended up modeling when coaching with me. You can create a situation where everyone dates everyone rather than having the top win. The average partner is 40, so the man definitely peaks later on than the woman, who peaks around 29 to 30. The man peaks around the late 30s to 40s. The hack would be be a photographer, even if part-time. You want to be living in one of these top cities, modeling cities, to make it easier. And if you want to hack it, you can geomax and you can go to another country where the ratios and the expectations are much more in your favor, okay? If you want to know more, step one though of all of this is to improve your style where you look the part, right? You want to be in this world, you have to know how to present yourself correctly in this world and industry. So I created a whole course called Seduce with Style. In that course, I talk about how to improve your style better than most guys, what I call elite style, not just average style, not just good style, elite style, and how to put together an outfit that reflects that for you, regardless of how you look now. In that course, I talk about how elite style affects your online dating. And in that course, I have a module called Module X, the reality of dating models, where you'll see the girls I've dated, my interviews with them, how I met them, how they got attracted to me, and my time as a model and how I managed my dating life during that period in my life. I talk about how to use your style and your elite mannerisms to create a competitive advantage in social situations. I also talk about how to make female model friends without hitting on them by creating this funnel where you create a setup of girls that are extremely attractive and how to manage that as a single guy. You'll also get in-depth interviews with my model friends, some of which ended up, being on billboards all over the world. So if you want to know more about that, if this is something that's interesting to you, all my knowledge has already been downloaded. The course is called Seduce with Style. You can learn more about it at highintegrityskills.com/style4. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you have similar experiences, I would love to hear your experiences in the industry or someone you've dated. Enjoy.